Hey everyone, welcome back to Tactical Magic. This is Molly Mandelberg, your host, and I am excited to geek out on marketing today again. Sometimes the episodes of this podcast lean into the mystical, magical realms, and sometimes we talk about marketing and strategy. And today, I think we're going to probably tap into a little bit of both because I've got the good business witch here with me today. So hang on for that introduction and we'll get started in just a second. It's not just about mastering technology. It's not just about brand or messaging. It's not just about making more money. It's about showing up in a big way so your people can find you. This is about bringing your most wild and authentic self into the hustle and grind. Welcome to Tactical Magic, a business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. All right. Megan Winkler is a marketing strategist and coach. She combines the magical with the mundane, the strategic with the spiritual to help entrepreneurs sell with authenticity and good vibes. She's worked for herself for over a decade. She has a master's degree in military history and is working on her MBA in marketing. Welcome, Megan.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, I'm excited to have you here. I love how you talk about mixing the magical with the mundane and the strategic with the spiritual, because over here we're called Tactical Magic, and that's kind of the whole name of the game, literally. So how did you find your way to wanting to combine such things?
Well, I will always be probably the first marketer to tell you that I hated the word marketing. And I resisted it so much. I actually started my career off writing, and my idea was that I was going to be a professor and I was going to write and teach. And, you put things out there in the universe, right? That I'm going to write and teach. I'm going to write and teach. Well, I wasn't all that specific because it turns out that I do write and teach, but I'm writing about and teaching marketing and not history like I thought I would. But as I kind of was developing my writing career, I found that a lot of people wanted to use the word marketing to describe what I did, and it was accurate, but it made me feel like gross inside, right? Because I think that there's a lot of bad marketing out there, and so I had to really rethink it. So I had to kind of wrap my brain around, okay, what does it mean to be spiritual and to, be witchy and woo and all that, but also to do the strategic stuff to sell a business and to sell offerings. And it just kind of developed out of that over the course of several years.
I love that. That's so similar to my own story. And I used to think the word marketing was so yucky. And definitely the clients that I work with all feel that way about marketing, which is why they hesitate and they don't do it. And they, put it off, and thus their business doesn't grow as fast as they want to because there's this yucky thing they have to do that they don't know how to do in a heart-centered way. So you mentioned there's bad versus good marketing. What does some good marketing look like?
Good marketing for me, and I always tell this to my clients, is that connection. So I always want my clients, and I always pursue, and I'm hoping to be selling in every post I put online. But that doesn't mean that I'm like, hey, click on the link and buy now. It's as you're selling, what you're doing is you're developing a relationship and opening a conversation. And I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. I realized earlier this year that my great grandfather came from Austria in the 30s and owned a business over there and immediately set a different business up here. And then through that line, everybody has been an entrepreneur and everybody has done sales to some extent. And I didn't realize how much sales and marketing was really developing that relationship. And, marketing is really just kind of the tangible arm of sales. So you're putting copy out there, you're creating social media content, all that, blogs and whatnot, podcast. And, when you open up that conversation and get people talking about themselves, talking about their business, expressing their needs and wants, you can then gear what you're marketing and how you're selling to what they need instead of just coming at them with a fire hose of just useless information, really.
Yeah, I love that. I talk about it as relationship marketing, where it's really all the content that you're putting out there is designed to build, like you said, a connection, but to build that relationship so that you can have more opportunities to get closer
Yeah.
marketing is really like the dating process, where instead of going straight for the old tactic of blasting people with 20 emails, selling them, instead date them for a while, see if they want to get to know you, see if they want to maybe jump in the boat and, you know, get engaged or get married by buying your program.
Yeah.
But to put the work in to build that relationship and to cultivate that connection and contribute before you ever ask for something, it really leads to raving fans instead of people who, you know, just finally can't take it anymore and buy your thing out of spite or unsubscribe because they're sick of it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways to go about that for sure. So what are some of the best ways, I mean, in your opinion and how you help your clients, what are some of the best ways to use marketing to attract clients? You mentioned social media and things like that, but what are some strategies?
So I love finding, so two things just come to mind. So I love finding the platform or the method that works well for you. I spent so much time as a blogger and a marketing writer, and I can whip out a blog in just like half an hour, like 400, 600 words, whatever, because I did it for so long. But it doesn't light me on fire. And anytime I sit down to write a blog for my business, it just comes out really flat. So I figured out that for me, running my mouth works real well. So I've got a podcast and it's been around for almost a year at this point. I do Instagram stories and Instagram lives because what comes out of my mouth as I'm talking through something is so much more powerful than what I could sit down and like write on the page. So that's the first one. And the second one is more esoteric. And so here's the magic, right? Is the mindset of it all, that selling is not gross, that you're not being pushy, you're showing people what you have to offer. And not having these ideas that it's like, okay, I'm going to start marketing my program and I'm going to sell out in a week. That marketing is a long game. And so it is about building that relationship, building that trust, building that like factor too. Like we want to get to know the people we're doing business with. So those two combined are the biggest pieces of advice I can give to anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I heard in the first one is not just to use video or to use a podcast as your platform, but what I think you were really saying is to play to your strengths, to recognize where something feels hard and sticky. And if there's another way to go about marketing that feels lighter and more fun, then do that way. So some people would absolutely rather die than be on Facebook Live or Instagram Live. They would much rather hide behind their keyboard. And that's okay. If that's where you want to do it, like make that your jam, make that what you're great at, write the blog post and, you know, create the written content. There's plenty of Instagram stories that are just writing or just photos that aren't video that work well. And then if the converse is true and you're really, like you said, better at running your mouth, then make that the strength that you work. And what I would add to that also is, just because you feel uncomfortable on video now, or you think you look like a fool, or you think it's really unprofessional to be doing the video the way you are now, I'd say wherever your comfort zone lies, be willing to push yourself into that other zone. So like for you, Megan, you could have someone on your team transcribing those videos into blog posts if you wanted to hit that platform as well. And for anyone else out there, your strength is definitely where to start. That's the where to start putting your energy and start paying attention to your marketing and giving it some of your like love and attention. And then also be willing to see how you can stretch that, how you can sort of mind hack or life hack yourself into pushing your boundary so that you're not just succumbing to, I'll never do video. When I first started my business, I was like, I had debilitating stage fright. I would really almost start crying if I thought I was about to be handed a microphone. And now I cannot wait to get on stage. I cannot wait to be handed a microphone. I love having the opportunity to speak to a group. My group programs are like where I feel the most alive and fulfilled because I'm getting to facilitate more than one person at a time. I still love my one-on-one clients, but I would never have gone into that zone if I hadn't been pushing my own comfort and saying, listen, I know I could try it. I know I could do it, and ripping that Band-Aid off enough time until it got comfortable. And that being said, you might not want to take the time to master the writing part when you're already a great speaker. So I think it's a give and take of pushing your comfort zone and then also getting smart about how you fulfill certain tasks. And I love that you brought up the esoteric side of, believing it's possible. This message has been coming to me so much over the last week, especially, but over the last few weeks, of how important that mindset is for success at all. Would you talk more about mindset and, the sort of magical, mystical realm of growing a business?
Sure, absolutely. So I always think about, and I think it was a personal trainer that posted it the first time that I saw it. It was something like, 6 months from now, if you start today, then you would have these results. But if you don't do anything 6 months from now, you'll still be here. And I think that really applies to so much in business ownership, but especially in marketing, right? That it's like, you don't have to be perfect. And you go back into, like, if you were to go back to my blog archives or like scroll all the way down the bottom of my Instagram, the pictures were gross, the captions weren't all that effective, but like, that's how you learn to do it. So really working through what works for you and what doesn't, but always holding that compassion for yourself, I think is so important. And I love my group programs too. I've got one going right now, and we were talking about visibility, and I was like, okay, so if you're not doing anything, I want you to start posting something. So post a picture and a caption, or create a blog post, or start your newsletter back up. If you're already doing that, then I want a selfie if video is too hard. Like, there's ways to step into it. And just, I don't know, I keep coming back to compassion, because it's so funny is, you'll notice I mentioned Instagram lives, but I hate doing Facebook lives. And that's not where I build my business, because I tried them a few times and I either got low engagement or I got like weird comments, and it just wasn't the space for me. And I had this kind of like moment of perfectionism that was like, oh no, but I have to be on Facebook Live. And I'm like, no, I don't. That's not where I'm getting my customers. I'm getting them over on Instagram. I have Instagram lives, and those feel good to me. And that was coming across to my audience. So I just kind of gave myself that space to say, this works and this doesn't. And I've definitely hired out for some other things, like you were saying, transcribing the podcast into blogs. I've got a fantastic Pinterest marketer or manager, because I love that Pinterest is there. I love it for me personally, but I don't know how to run it. And so, like, tagging on to the people around you and being open to new ideas, I think is really good. Because I was just in a training this morning about course creations and using Instagram and all that, because I don't know everything. It's always good to see what everybody else is doing. So without comparison, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when you're running a business and you're doing well, there's going to be new information that comes out, and you can't necessarily always be on top of that without learning it from someone who's on top of that. And thank you to those people out there who are geeking out on different things, so we can learn different things and get good at them also.
Yes.
But I love that you came back to compassion, because I feel like that growing edge and that pushing ourselves to lean into more, or to lean into a different place, is really powerful. And also paying attention to what's working and what's not working, and then pivoting and adjusting, or getting support when that is needed, or learning something new if that's going to unblock you. I think that willingness to stay curious as you're being compassionate with yourself, and also that willingness to keep looking for another way around. Like, if there is a block and a wall for you, is there another way around? Is there someone who could support you? Is there someone who could teach you? Or is there another platform and another way of going about it that might be easier and more downstream for you to play with?
Yeah.
Really great advice. So marketing on Instagram is a whole world. How do you find the right people? How do you build your community there? I mean, how do you go about finding new followers, or making sure that the people who are watching you on Instagram are ideal clients?
So I get a little controversial. And, the recent election came up, and anybody can visit my Instagram profile and see who I voted for. And I watched my followers drop. And I was like, you know what? These aren't the people that need to be in my circle anyway. I'll come out and say something about, how you can be spiritual and a business owner, and how it doesn't have to be all like super strategic and super, regimented, and people will fall away. At the same time, other people will come in those places. And so that's one of my favorite ways to kind of prune the audience, I
Be willing to
suppose,
polarize people. Yeah.
is to come out with those kind of controversial things. And I will be witchy and spiritual there. And there are people that will take a hike because it's just too much for them, and it's fine.
Yeah.
It's totally cool.
That's
but I love to
cultivating
do
your crowd for sure.
What's that?
That is cultivating your crowd for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And then honestly, I love just getting to know people I have some paid and some free coaching groups that I'm in. And that way you start connecting with people. And then, you'll do like the post in the group where it's like, hey, let's follow everybody over on Instagram or follow everybody over on LinkedIn or whatever. And really taking advantage of like who's in your industry or who might need your help. And connecting with those people on a more personal level.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I've been, like I said, present to this mindset aspect of business a lot lately, and I've done a bunch of episodes on the being versus the doing and the energetics versus the practical tactics. And one thing that keeps coming up is goal setting, and I like to call them targets, not goals, but about looking at what I want to create for the future and how to get out of my own way to have that. I'm wondering if you have any practices or tools that you do around goal setting or targets or irrational beliefs and how that goes for you.
I was actually just talking about this the other day with some of my clients. Is I like to, again, it's the masculine, feminine, the strategic, the spiritual. I like to set intentions, and I usually follow the moon cycle for that. And that's setting it with the moon cycle is a new thing for me, and I'm really trying it, and I like it. But then at the beginning of every month, I have like one big goal that I want for the month. And sometimes that goal is something like, I want 5 new clients, or I'm launching this product. And sometimes it's just, I want to make sure I've scheduled in space for me time each week because last month was crazy. So I think for me, setting those goals, they need to be strategic goals most of the time, but sometimes your biggest goal should be that you rest and take care of yourself if that's what you need. So I do a combination of intentions and goals, and I try to do like 3 mini goals per week that all kind of have that larger goal in mind. So I'm not always perfect at it, but that's what I try to do.
Awesome. So bigger goals and then chunk them down to weekly practical goals. And then what I heard is also scheduling those things so they actually happen, which I think we can have a goal list forever, but if we don't put that on the calendar, we might not ever get around to it.
Yeah. I mean, and like put like that end on the calendar, right? Like by this date, I want this thing done, and then like back figure it. And again, giving yourself compassion that it's like, if you realize, 4 weeks is not long enough for that, I need 6 weeks, and move it out 2 weeks. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. So who is an ideal client to come and get your services?
My ideal client is, generally speaking, a female business owner who is trying to make the world better and is inviting her spirituality into her business. So I have clients from physicians to Reiki instructors and anything in between. And anybody as well who works with spiritual entrepreneurs, like if you're a VA or an OBM, that maybe you're a little more strategic and you need to get into the head of some spiritual entrepreneurs, I can help with that as well.
Awesome. So do you help with the copywriting or the like branding? Like what is your sweet spot?
Yeah. So it's really interesting. Everybody asks, what does it look like to work with you? And my answer is, it's always different. So I have some clients with whom I work primarily with like their copy and their messaging. I've also helped other clients completely revamp their branding. And then I've got other clients that really, they're just like, can you just take care of the newsletters and the social media and a couple of blogs a month and call it good? So it really depends on what they're looking for, but it's all centered on this messaging, this communication and connection with other people.
Awesome. So tell us more about your podcast.
I love my podcast. It's called The Good Business Witch. And every week I chat about things in business or life because they're intimately connected. Obviously, a lot of my content is marketing focused, but a lot of it as well is just general business things and questions that come up from my clients or um, my contemporaries, my fellow coaches and whatever. And some of it is like ideas that pop up when I'm a client in a coaching group and something like an insight that I receive. And I've got some guests on some episodes, and then other episodes are just me solo. So it's
Awesome.
very cool and about 20 minutes long every week. So
Easy to digest. So
yes.
for those people who are out there that are spiritual, but maybe they're running their business in a more masculine or, tactical, technical way, how would one bring more spirituality into their business? What are some ways to do that?
One of my favorite ways to do that is to figure out a personal practice, like a personal spiritual practice that works well for you. And I'm not one of those people that's going to be like, oh yeah, you need to be meditating 30 minutes a morning. If that doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. But somehow coming into contact with the more spiritual parts of your life, but also the more sensual parts. And I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about the senses. So getting your feet on the ground, outside, in the grass, taking longer times to make a really good lunch during the day and savoring what you're eating, spending time like really connecting with the senses, and then spending time connecting with your own creativity, like whatever that looks like. So maybe that's like revamping your living room or cooking or, sitting down to write something that's just for you, and bringing kind of these more flowing feminine aspects of yourself that are already there out to the forefront. Because especially if you've got like a really strategic business that's very kind of that masculine energy, that like things are scheduled and you've got platforms and everything, that's like the perfect place to invite some of this spiritual intuitive stuff in, because you've got all the concrete stuff that'll keep it grounded.
Yeah, it's good to have a balance of those things.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've got the ear of the world. What's the message you want everyone to hear and know and be?
Oh, wow. I want to first say to the ladies listening, the world is ready for your message and the world is ready for your gifts, and we absolutely need you. One of my biggest goals in my business is to help elevate the businesses and the voices of other women. Men have had it for far too long, but I know that these messages also resonate with a lot of men. So those who are listening, I feel like these are the kind of men that are occupying spaces that are happy to help us on this mission as well. So thank you. Yeah, and just, I keep going back to compassion. I keep going back to taking time. I sat down and wrote a message out that felt very channeled from spirit earlier. And it was just like, take things a day, a week, a step at a time. So right now the future feels really uncertain, and that's okay. Just take care of you and your business, and the future will figure itself out.
Absolutely. Great advice. So what's the best place for people to go and find you?
Well, the best place to find me usually is Instagram. So my main account is at the Megan Winkler, and you can also find me at Good Business Witch. You can find me online, both at meganwinkler.com and goodbusinesswitch.com.
Awesome. And we will have those links for y'all in the show notes for this episode. Thank you so much, Megan, for being on the show today. I feel such resonance with you. I feel like we kind of do the same thing for the same people, but I'm sure in different and magical ways. And I'm really grateful to have met you. And I hope that everyone listening to this episode is giving themselves more compassion, more space and time to show up in the world in a way that feels good to them. And also, play to your strengths and don't stop, because the world needs your message.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
And everybody listening, please don't forget to rate and review the show if you're on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, and make sure to subscribe whatever platform you're on so you don't miss another episode from Tactical Magic. I'm Molly Mandelberg, your host, and whatever happens, keep asking big questions and taking bold action because you are here for a reason. Bye.